We're in closed session. Most of you. Let's talk. Good evening and welcome to the Dana Point City Council meeting of Tuesday, June 16th. I'll now call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? I don't believe your microphone's on.
I'll move you to this one.
Oh, gosh. I'm on the floor. Okay, let's get this up. Here we go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that. I'm going to call the roll. Councilmember Lewis.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Wyatt.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Federico.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor is here.
I'm here, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Mr. City Attorney, is there a need for a closed session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First this evening, we have a conference with legal counsel as a result of anticipated litigation due to the significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2. We have two cases to discuss. Next, we have a closed session as a result of the threat to public services or facilities pursuant to Government Code Section 54957A. We'll be having a consultation with City Attorney, Director of Emergency Services, Director of General Services regarding COVID-19. Finally, we have a conference with Real Property Negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. We'll be discussing the property at Donny Park Road and Coast Highway, APN 668-28301. The agency's negotiator is Mr. Killebrew. The negotiating parties are the City of Dana Point and Cynthia Modine Holder. Under negotiation will be the price and terms of a possible agreement relating to real property. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. With that, we will recess to closed session until 6 p.m. Our connections remain strong. Now is the time.
Yep.
Okay. You all ready? Good evening. Welcome to the Dana Point City Council meeting of June 16th, 2020. We will now reconvene our meeting. We'll begin the night with the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilman Miller.
Please rise and face the flag. Join me in paying our pledge of our allegiance to the greatest symbol of freedom in the world. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. There is no invocation and no presentations and proclamations tonight, which brings us to the reading of the ordinance titles. Madam Clerk, actually, before we do that, let me ask Mr. City Manager, do we have any items that are going to be pulled tonight?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, staff requests to remove item number 12 from tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you. So item number 12 will be removed from the agenda. And that brings us to the reading of the ordinance titles. Madam Clerk, are there any ordinance titles to read?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will not read item 12's ordinance title since it's just been removed, but I will read item 13's ordinance title. It is an introduction for first reading of an ordinance entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Dana Point, California, approving zone text amendment ZTA 19-0003 to modify the zoning code related to accessory dwelling units, joint parking provisions, and public notification and submission as part of Local Coastal Program Amendment LCPA 19-0003 for approval and certification by the California Coastal Commission. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I believe you read item 12. I think you need to read item 13, Madam Clerk.
My apologies, Mr. Mayor. I will read the item number 13's ordinance for first reading and introduction of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Dana Point approving zone text amendment ZTA 19-003 to amend the Dana Point Harbor Revitalization Plan and district regulations for Planning Area 3 and submission as part of Local Coastal Program Amendment LCPA 19-003 for approval and certification by the California Coastal Commission. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And again, item 12 has been removed from tonight's agenda. So that brings us to the consent calendar portion of the agenda. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Madam Clerk, do we have any items to be removed by the public?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. City Manager, are there any items to be removed by staff?
No, sir.
Okay, are there, well, first I'll ask, well, I can look around, who's here. Are there any items to be removed by, I'm seeing shaking of heads, so those are here. And Councilmember Lewis, do you have anything to remove?
No, thank you.
Okay, I will move the recommended actions for the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Okay. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the public comments portion of the agenda. There'll be a 3-minute time limit per person and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for this public comments portion of the agenda. At my discretion, the balance of the comments will be heard after the new business portion of the agenda. All comments are to be directed to the City Council, shall not consist of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during their comments. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on a specific item unless it appears on the posted agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any in-person public comments tonight?
I believe there are some in-person public comments. I'll ask Shayna to hand me those speaker slips. Thank you.
Okay, and just again, so the procedure we're following, we are slowly reopening, so we will have in-person public comments, and we are still receiving comments by email. Thank you, Madam Clerk, which the clerk will then read at the conclusion of the in-person public comments. So I see we have 2 public comments tonight. The first is by Betty Hill, followed by Pamela Moore Jones. So, Ms. Hill?
Thank you. I hope you can hear with this mask. There were many critical issues discussed at the June 6th City Council meeting. A public speaker thought that the investigation into an allegation of misogyny by Councilman Mueller was a waste of taxpayer money. He didn't mention that this allegation was supported by many residents who witnessed his behavior at council meetings. All such allegations are serious and investigations must be fair and unbiased. Regarding the collection of unpaid property taxes, The city's legal costs have grown to over $1.5 million per year. The city council should attempt to use less expensive attorneys to handle this and other routine matters. And given the city's reduced revenue, Rutan and Tucker's fees should be renegotiated as a matter of sound business practice. There are also examples of questionable legal matters that have cost taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, including 6 years of litigation where the council's action was judged to be a pretext by the state superior court. It is alarming that coronavirus cases and hospitalizations are continuing to rise in Orange County, along with the number of deaths in our city. Last Sunday, the number of cases on that day reached 299, the highest ever recorded. On June 13th, there were 315 new hospitalizations, also the highest ever reported. There needs to be more testing, with masks and social distancing required until a downward trend is established. Thousands of visitors are coming to the harbor, beaches, and businesses. Requiring masks at our businesses and grocery stores would not only help control the virus to prevent avoidable infections and deaths, but would it provide the assurance needed to help our businesses be successful and to stay open? All these issues show why Dana Point residents need to be represented by council members with integrity and character. The council should not represent the politics of the Lincoln Club, the TCA, the South Orange County Economic Coalition, the Orange County Real Estate PAC, or developers. If members of this council are being influenced by special interest groups and their spokesmen, the public is not being well served. Dana Point residents deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Hill. The next speaker is Pamela Moore-Jones.
Hello.
Excuse me.
Hello. Thank you. My name is Pamela Moore Jones, and I am a social worker and a business owner. Tonight, though, I'm coming here to talk to you about the pain and the grief of mothers. And for a mother to come out and talk to the council, it's because we love and we care about our kids. I know we all have mothers. That's something we all have in common. And what I realized being a mother is it's not an easy job. And so I'm here tonight to be the best mom that I can be. And I appreciate the mayor and the city council for listening. Thank you. I want to tell you that I have a deep sympathy for George Floyd's daughter and her mother and all the people that were lost due to the virus. But I want you to think about how much mothers love their children. If you could just for a second think about a mother, maybe a grandmother, even if you didn't have a mother, you may have had a social worker, a teacher, a Sunday school teacher. I want you to just think about that person. And when you think about them, they may have spanked you or lectured you. But what you remember is how they made you feel. Comfort, a sense of security. You know, a mother would die for you. A lot of times a mother will love you and you feel like you deserve the love. You take it for granted. But being a mother is a hard job. And we don't know the answers. We're learning too, and every day I'm learning. But I'm coming to the board today as a mother, as a grieving mother, as a mother that is giving you the voice of many generations of women, mothers who have mothered other people's children. And so those mothers, just so you know, I want you to be aware, we taught our kids to go to school to get an education. We told them that, we're in this together. We taught them Sunday school songs like, Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. And so these are the children that are out there now concerned because they're confused. And as mothers, I'm here to take an action, to accept that racism is real, injustice is real. We may never change it, but we all live under that flag. And I taught my kid and many other kids, all different colors, indivisible.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Moore. Your time has expired. Would you
Okay.
please conclude your comments?
I just want to say thank you. And they are going to work together. And I'm going to be here in Dana Point wanting to work with you. And I do want to give you something. No one.
If you please, you could hand those to the clerk or, okay, thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Moore Jones.
She was going to read it. The clerk.
No, I'm sorry, Ms. Moore Jones. She will provide it to us and we will read it.
Okay. Is it possible to get a response at some point?
Depending on what it is, Ms. Moore Jones, I'm sure we could have someone follow up after we read it. So thank you very much for
I really
coming in tonight.
appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any more in-person public speakers?
I do not believe we have any more in-person public speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, we will turn to our emailed public comments. So if you would, Madam Clerk, would you please read those?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first public comment starts out by saying, "To whom it may concern, we are very annoyed that a board member continues to use the dais for his political bashings and rantings. The law prohibits using public resources for political purposes. Why is the chair of the TCA board not shutting down this inappropriate political dialogue? We have heard that the TCA supported 2 candidates in the last San Clemente City Council elections so that TCA would have influence over the city's policymaking. The TCA has no business meddling in local elections as it goes against our great democracy and is against the law. Just so you know, Rancho Santa Margarita has a population of roughly 48,000 people, yet the TCA director, Tony Beal, slams and smashes our highly elected, highly qualified and effective elected officials that represent over 500,000 people in Orange County. It is astonishing that the TCA attorney and the other board members allow this bully to spew misinformation and his own hateful political agenda on our public dime. This needs to stop. A complaint will be filed with the FPPC, and we hope that the TCA cleans up this illegal and highly inappropriate behavior. Signed, Eyes for Good." The next public comment is from Hoyen Hip regarding problems related to 4th of July. Dear City Council, 4th of July is around the corner, and I'm concerned about 2 problems. Number 1, face covering. Yesterday, the county removed the face covering requirement, talking about its timing, reopening, and 4th of July. Can Dana Point have a local policy? 9 cities, including Laguna Beach, have local policies. What the county had was similar to Seal Beaches and Costa Mesas. Number 2, balloons. Many people are not aware of the environmental impacts of balloons. It's an annual topic at the Ocean Water Quality Subcommittee. I appreciate the social media post. This week, I was talking about it with someone. He looked up the post and said it was in 2017, as if the problem didn't exist anymore. I hope the city can make another post before the 4th to remind people of the problem. On February 24th, the Orange County Register article trashed Valentine's Day balloons show no love for the ocean or its wildlife, mentioned a petition, ban the balloon in Laguna Beach to protect the ocean and marine wildlife. It has 3,851 signatures. More and more cities have banned balloons. I drafted one for Newport Beach. It was approved and supported by the Water Quality Committee and Harbor Commission. It is in the city attorney's office, and she lists a web email. Thank you, Hoyan IP, and she also lists a couple of pictures that go along, and this will be also in our record as well as it's already on our website. The next public comment is from Sam Crane. Hello, I would like the following to be addressed in tomorrow's meeting. What is being done to defund the police and reallocate those funds to support the BIPOC of Dana Point and address the motivators of crime, such as socioeconomic and housing instability and childcare and education access? What is being done to address the racism that permeates the country, society, and politics down to Dana Point? I look forward to hearing your response during tomorrow night's City Council meeting. Thank you, Sam Crane. The next one is from Bill Lane. Dear City Council, once again, I would like to remind the council of the harmful effects of balloon waste on our environment. Newport Beach is considering a ban on balloons as an effort to protect its ocean and marine life. I think Dana Point should do likewise. Letting balloons go randomly into the air to land, who knows where, is reckless and irresponsible. Education and possibly regulation is necessary. Thank you for your consideration. In addition, he added another statement. After talking with my fishermen and fisherwoman neighbors, it appears that the balloon issue is a very real problem. Quoting my friend, it's prevalent. I could easily fish out 40 to 50 balloons each time I go out. I have attached a photo taken by my neighbor, Peter Floth. He counted 50 that he collected a few weekends ago. Yesterday, he saw 40. Thank you, Bill Lane. The next one is on the subject homeless. Homelessness is a fundamental problem. Affordable housing and supportive services to help prevent homelessness. How does the city plan to utilize the new 2021 budget to address the issues of homelessness in Dana Point? What can citizens do to respond to this issue? Are there specific actions citizens can take, and what are they? Is there a person working with the city members and the city council to address any concerns regarding homelessness? Please provide a name of the person and contact information. And then there's a photo on here from the Ocean Institute. It says several children approached the restroom, and a homeless citizen was bathing in the outside sink. Dana Point's mission is to set standard for an exceptionally livable city. Thank you for your time and consideration. A compassionate citizen. Lastly, this public comment is from Wayne Yost. Regarding 4th of July, 2020. As we celebrate the 244th birthday of our nation, I implore you to educate your children and grandchildren as to what the genesis of this holiday is, what the fireworks and the parades we once had truly represents. Our Declaration of Independence was not simply a parchment document. For the first time in history, our colonies united and declared that our freedom would not be subjugated. Today, our enemies must be rolling on the ground laughing, or more than likely slapping their foreheads saying, "What were we thinking? For the past 244 years, we were attempting to destroy the Americans, people, and everything their country stands for with bullets, bombs, and propaganda. In just 244 hours, they managed to accomplish that by themselves. How could we allow our governments at all levels to usurp every ideal that we so dearly cherish? Quote, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Thank you.
Okay, if that concludes public comments, I will go ahead and close the public comment portion of the meeting, which brings us to council reports. The city council may discuss, act upon, or seek consensus on matters described under council reports only if they're agendized with the complete written report included, or if an item arose subsequent to the posting of the agenda, the council determines that an emergency exists. Non-agendized items may be presented as informational only. We'll go around the horn and ask for council reports. Councilman Wyatt.
I have turned in my list of meetings to the city clerk, and I have nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Lewis.
Yes, I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've turned in my list of meetings and I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Federico.
I have turned in my list of meetings. I have nothing to report from my official meetings. I do have 2 questions for the staff, however, briefly. First is, Mr. City Manager, could we ask the ACM to rerun those messages about the harmful effects of balloons coming up on the summer holidays? I'm assuming that's an easy one, right?
Yes, sir.
Seems that's easy. And then this one, a little more complicated based on staff's capacity right now. But in our agenda in the development update, it states that a short-term rental survey was conducted in March by FM3. I know the council approved that many months ago, but with COVID, I didn't know the outcome. And if that was completed, can we get an update or a brief to the city council at a near future meeting? I guess the next meeting is 21st of July.
Yes, we're ready to go with it.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. I have nothing to report, and I will turn in my list of meetings after the meeting. Okay, that brings us to the public hearings portion of the agenda. As we've already mentioned, item 12 has been pulled, which brings us to item 13. Mr. City Manager, is there a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Presenting tonight for this item is Sean Nicholas, our senior planner, and also Brenda Wisniewski, our director of community development, is available.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Sean Nicholas, Senior Planner. The item before you this evening is LCPA and ZTA 19-003 associated with amendments to PA3 within the Dana Point Harbor Plan. So some background on this, the Dana Point Harbor Revitalization Plan and district regulations were certified by the California Coastal Commission on October 6th. Development partners have eyed to the other areas within the for you. As a component of that it includes the replacement of Dana Marina Inn, as well as requesting a new market rate hotel as a component of LCPA. This item was heard by the Planning Commission at a public hearing on May 27th, and it was recommended for approval 5-0. So here is a table that is in your staff report this evening. This is a good high-level summary of the modifications being proposed this evening by the Harbor Partners. Key things being a new market rate hotel, as I indicated, to increase the number of rooms by at least 46, though that number may go up ultimately due to additional lower cost hotel rooms that may be required in the future. You'll see the increase to restaurant by about 5,500 square feet and a reduction of the same number in terms of defined boater service facilities and special functions. So there is no net change to the overall square footage to the development of PA3. It's important to note that staff has been evaluating this, and it appears that there will be no change in intensity, and that the fact that the increase in the restaurant space is offset by the amount of other reductions throughout PA3. Also, LLG, the city's third-party contract traffic engineers, have provided some initial feedback, and they also believe in terms of from traffic perspective, that they are generally the same as the previously approved numbers that are being modified by this LCPA. Additionally, a full CEQA analysis for whatever project is finally and formally proposed and comes before Planning Commission for a CDP and potentially other entitlements will include a full CEQA analysis as part of that application. And to quickly give you an update on the project status and development within PA3, they have submitted an initial project, and that proposed project that is being reviewed by staff is consistent with the parameters of these amendments. There is also a shared parking and management plan that is being developed, and the application is not deemed complete. So as I said, staff is still working with the applicant on the issues. Though the EIR, the environmental CEQA process I just mentioned, is moving forward, as council knows, you have approved the LSA contract, and the scoping meeting date is to be determined. So with that, the Planning Commission does recommend the adoption of a resolution approving the LCPA and for submission to the California Coastal Commission, and then to conduct a first reading of an ordinance associated with ZTA 19-003 for the proposed amendments to PA3 of the Harbor Plan. And that concludes staff's presentation. Staff and the applicant are available to address any council members' questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we open the public hearing, I'll go around to council if there's any preliminary questions from council. Councilman Wyatt?
Could you go back to the first slide, Sean? Oh, I don't have it up in my, do you have it up? Okay, thank you. So the first point there is that the harbor revitalization plan was approved, right, to move ahead. And is that approved in certification mean it went through coastal's approval at that level at least? Is that,
Yes, sir.
okay. So when you get then down to the hotel, I mean, what I think is the question I have is on the hotel rooms, the proposal here reduces the number of lower cost rooms and adds market rate rooms.
No, it does not decrease the number of low cost overnight accommodation rooms. In fact,
okay, yeah, could we go to that?
yeah, here's the table. And in fact, it could ultimately result in additional low cost because there's going to be a room for room replacement associated with the existing Dana Marina Inn, and then additionally more rooms and provisions associated with offsetting the additional rooms proposed by the market rate hotel. So there's actually going to be a net increase in low cost rooms directly tied to that increase in market rate rooms. And as it's written, it provides no maximum. So again, there's options in which ultimately most likely will go to Coastal Commission and they'll have their say.
So what is that? How many rooms are in Marina Inn today?
Today, I believe that it is 136 rooms because that is the minimum that they have to replace.
Okay. And so on the existing plan, it says 220. That was the part that confused me because I thought that was more rooms than we had there. So this chart here says the existing is 220, but that's not talking about what actually exists there at the moment.
You are correct, sir.
Okay. So the 136 is directly one-for-one replacement. That was the question I really had on this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Lewis?
Yes, thank you. Okay, the hotel, it says proposed plan 2 hotels. My understanding is that 2 hotels was part of the original plan. Is that wasn't correct?
That is not correct. It specifically calls out 1 hotel for the replacement of the Dana Marina Inn, and this would then allow for that replacement in 1 additional market rate hotel.
Okay, and how many rooms are in the existing hotel, the Marina Hotel?
136?
Oh, so 136 is in the Marina, so, okay. I also have another question. The defined boater service facilities. It's 1,800 square feet less. Has there been any comment from the Boaters Association or boaters about that?
Staff has not received any comments, and we have done all the necessary and public outreach and notification. Perhaps the applicants, the harbor partners are here, and perhaps they can speak on what they have done in terms of additional outreach.
Okay.
Where are the harbor partners
Oh,
here? Please
you
come
want
in
that?
and,
Yeah.
and answer the questions if you need it repeated or, okay, welcome.
I'm Sherman Stacy here on behalf of the Point Harbor Partners and R.D. Olson Company.
Oh, hang on one second. Your microphone's not on. Is it on now?
Sorry?
Okay,
Are you-
sorry.
are you
Hold on a second,
speaking to me?
Councilmember Lewis. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties.
Okay.
And harbor partners are here now. I will turn it over to them to answer the question.
Thank you again. Sherman Stacy here on behalf of Dana Point Harbor Partners and R.D. Olson Development. The reduction in the boater service facilities arose from a small change that had previously been approved in the boundaries between the commercial core and the hotel zones. One of the boater service buildings moved from the existing visitor serving area to the commercial core. So the total square footage does not reduce. It simply has been shifted to what was planning area 2. In addition, in the planning of the marina, the permit for which should be considered by the Coastal Commission probably by September, this quarter of the marina is where the fewest number of boats were designed. That is, the largest slips are here, and therefore the demand for boater services is reduced in this specific area. Although the square footage that is provided between planning areas 2 and 3 remains what was otherwise set forth in your original plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and has there been any comment from the Boating Association on this particular change?
Not that we are aware of. If it has come into the city staff could respond to that.
Anything
Okay,
from the city?
I asked because, there was concern at the beginning of boaters being able to have facilities for their boats, and that they were concerned that they were somehow not getting the same sort of services and ability to use their boats that they have now. So that was my question about have they expressed any concern? The restaurant, is this going to be more than one restaurant now, or is this just one larger restaurant?
It is one restaurant.
Okay, so one restaurant. Is there a potential tenant for it, that it's being increased by this much, or is this just a decision by the harbor partners?
It's a decision based upon the room count in the hotel. And it will be operated by the hotel, not by a third-party lessee.
And I assume the restaurant is open to the public, right? Not just hotel guests?
That is correct.
Okay, and then the fitness and outdoor activity, is that something that's just for hotel guests, or is that, I'm not sure what outdoor activity area is, or fitness, is this something that's just for the hotel guests, or is this also open to public?
This is something directly for the hotel guests associated with the ancillary use of the hotel.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your questions. And Councilman Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of my questions were just answered. I have one quick question. In your staff report, you say the hotel uses are less intensive than the other uses of PA3. What are the other uses?
For example, restaurant use, there is the consideration of the special event types of facilities, and those could have resulted in a more intensive use, especially involving traffic. And as council knows, as we've discussed with other hotel types of facilities, their demand and their drive in terms of intensity and use is lower than those types of facilities.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Federico?
Just real quick, probably for you, Sean, for people who aren't as terribly familiar with the planning of the harbor in general, can you just give a quick sort of rough layout of where planning area 3 is versus planning area 2? Just some geographic landmarks that people might recognize if they're listening.
So I believe probably Tony or Sherman can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe PA3 is generally where the Dana Marina Inn is now and kind of the surrounding area there. And so a big part of this will actually be moving both the low-cost overnight hotel and the market rate hotel closer to the promenade that will be created and the harbor water itself. So in that area, you'll look at where the Dana Marina Hotel is, but just imagine it much closer to the boats, much closer to the promenade to create more of a pedestrian atmosphere associated with those facilities.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all those questions, all very good questions. I don't have any at this time, so what I'll do is open the public hearing. I guess I have to gavel it. Public hearing is now open, and I'll ask Madam Clerk if we have any public comments on this item.
We do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, I will close the public hearing. All right, bring it back to council. I will move the recommended action.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so we'll go around for any discussion we have on the item. Councilman Wyatt?
I don't have any further things to discuss on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Lewis?
No, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Miller?
Just real quickly, I want to thank staff and the Harbor Partners for all the hard work they did on this. And I know it's just the beginning of the process. So good luck when you get over to Coastal Commission. I hope this is going to pass. Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem Federico?
Nothing more.
All right, thank you very much. With that, do we need a roll call vote on this, or is that's not required, is it? Okay. With that, I will simply say, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Not hearing any. That passes unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to unfinished business. Item 14, Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. In the 3.5 months since the first reported case of COVID-19 in Orange County, both on a countywide basis and in particular for our community here in Dana Point, the number of reported COVID cases has remained low in comparison to the size of the overall population. In addition, the hospitals have not experienced issues in regards to their capacity to handle COVID-related patients. And I do want to give a shout out to the county. They've started providing some additional information regarding those, the capacity use at the hospitals. They even put a chart in there related to the timeline of hospital usage and ICU usage with dates associated with major changes in what's been going on with our community with when the stay-at-home order hit, when some of the protests started, reopening different segments of businesses, and you can kind of gauge on whether or not any of those in particular had any significant impacts to date on the hospitalizations. And to date, we're not seeing those. So, good news so far. As reported out of the last several council meetings, we again are pleased to see further loosening of the state stay-at-home order and the opening of more business sectors in our community. Late last week, we saw restrictions on our beaches opened up to allow for passive use, and our hotels were allowed to begin hosting tourists and vacationers again. I'm happy to report that our Dana Point Youth Baseball, we've been working with them. Their season was put on hold when the stay-at-home order was announced in March. They're scheduled to begin practices again next week, and they're doing so in compliance with the state's day camp guidelines. And the permit we have with them is that they are to adhere to all state, county, and local orders. So bringing baseball back to the kids is a good start in the right direction here. Also, close contact professions such as manicurists are allowed by the state to begin serving their customers again this coming Friday. We are hopeful that the county health officer will be issuing specific operating guidelines for nail salons, possibly as soon as tomorrow. So really good news. You asked my wife. The city remains committed to protecting the health, welfare, and constitutional rights of our residents, and our efforts are still focused in that regard. As we begin to see the continuing softening of the stay-at-home order, we again encourage everybody to be respectful of others, to socially distance, and to wear face coverings when in public areas where social distancing is not possible. We will continue to provide the community updates we've been doing via email as we receive information from state and county health authorities. With that, we're available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. The recommended action is to receive and file, so we really don't need a motion, but what I will do is go around for any discussion. If council members have any on the item, Council Member Wyatt.
I have one question that direct to our city manager. I think it just came up when I was listening. So since our last meeting, the Orange County Health Officer has changed the order on face masks from mandatory to highly recommended. Have we received any input of any sort from our business operations as to the impact of that, plus or minus? I'm just curious.
I don't know of any reports back from our businesses as far as impacts. I do say that there are essential services that still are required to wear face coverings, the employees themselves. But I haven't heard of any negative impacts. I do see a lot of people wearing masks indoors, and obviously it's not everybody, but I haven't heard of any impacts.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Lewis.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to express my disagreement and concern and disapproval of the supervisors changing their direction to mandatory masks now down to recommended. I think that's a bad idea given that cases are still going up. It's a minor inconvenience, and it really it's one thing that we can all do to protect the health of other people in our community. So I would like to once again say thank you to Gelson's for still requiring masks. And I will be doing my shopping there, as I know many other people who have written to me said that that was important to them as well. I walked around, I've gone into, well, I didn't go into other places. I saw that other places now are not requiring masks. So I'm very concerned about that, but I guess we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would be remiss if I didn't ask one question for my son, who is going crazy without movie theaters being open. Well, what's the word on movie theaters?
I don't know that the county health officer's taken action on that. The state has put out that they were able to move them forward at 25% occupancy, I believe, with some other conditions. But I will check on that, and we will, if we can get a solid update from the county on what the direction is there, we'll put it in our update and we'll shoot it out to council.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll again applaud the staff for all the hard work they're putting into helping facilitate all the dynamic changes that are going on and keeping the not just essential, but all city services functioning and getting City Hall back open. And when all this started, the City Hall and the city staff talked about adopting an approach of educate and encourage. And so in the interest of educating and encouraging, yes, the county health order has changed to, regarding masks, has changed to strongly recommended to wear a mask if you cannot maintain 6 feet distance. And the only difference in that from the other one was it said that you shall wear a mask if you can't maintain 6 feet distance. But what I would encourage all of our residents to do is, if you're not wearing a mask, just stay 6 feet away from other people. And you're doing that to make sure you might not spread the virus to them. So You don't have to have a mask on according to the rules, but you certainly can be a good neighbor and stay 6 feet away. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for those comments, and I'll echo the comments thanking our staff and for continuing to move us in the right direction. And again, I'm very optimistic that the direction that we're heading is the right one. So with that having been said, this is a receive and file item, so really no action necessary. I will move on to item 15 and ask Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
Yes, Jeff Rossler, our Community Development Manager, is here to provide the staff report, and Brenda Wisniewski, our Community Development Director, is also available.
Good evening, Council. How are you? So each year, the City of Dana Point Code Enforcement Division implements a program to remove weeds from private property. This program contacts around 250 property owners each year and has a compliance rate of around 99% voluntary compliance. As you guys are aware, at the May 5th, 2020 council meeting, City Council directed staff to review the current program as we initiated each year and offer solutions for the program enhancement. So with an interest in creating measurable outcomes, staff developed 2 performance matrices. And so the first one is we'd like to decrease the number of properties on the annual weed abatement list by 10% or more each year. And the second is to decrease the overall cost of the program by 10% annually for the next several years. Staff is recommending 4 areas for improvement that will enhance our current program. The first one is taking a look at kind of those properties that annually are bad apples. And so with those kind of bad apple properties, we'll do year-round code enforcement through our traditional mechanisms, which is a notice of violation and then citations, and try and get these things kind of improved, or these properties improved, prior to the rainy season, after the rainy season, and before we initiate this annual program each year. We think this will help reduce the number quite dramatically that we see each year of that 250, and we think we'll find some good solutions there. The second one is clear and consistent expectations. We did a little bit of research and looked at some of our neighboring cities and how they handle weed abatement each year. One of the things we found was that such a city as San Clemente has a set date each year, and that provides some consistency to residents. I am surprised each year how many people call up and ask me, well, weed abatement, when do I have to do that by? And, you know, they've been doing this, they've had the property for 25 years. They should know that each spring, close to summer, they need to remove the weeds from their property. But one thing we've never done is had a consistent calendar base. And that's kind of because we never know when we're going to get rain or how much rain and when the weeds are going to show up, because they are an annual nuisance. But I think by providing some consistent guidelines and communicating that out through social media, through traditional media, through our website, that it'll be more consistent, it'll be more clear, and homeowners, property owners can get on board and comply. Process streamlining. Each year we have to bring 3 resolutions to City Council. I know that I often hear that, well, you know, we're up here every month with a weed abatement notification. Well, it's not every month. It's 3 times a year. There's a resolution that y'all need to pass. In going back and reading the government code section, we really only need to do 2 resolutions. So that's only 2 times you guys have to hear about weed abatement each year. And so I think that'll streamline some of the process. And I think there's a lot of improvements on how we handle that process. There was a lot of hand-holding by some of our old code officers. And I think we need to get people out there like understanding what their expectations are, clear those weeds, and not spend so much time for staff doing so. The last area is utilizing another chapter in the Dana Point Municipal Code. That's chapter 6.15. And that's something that's been brought to our attention prior by Councilmember Lewis. And it's an area code that kind of helps maintain some landscaping on commercial vacant lots. And we've identified 56 areas that are in a commercial zoned area that are vacant. And we've initiated a program to help them meet some sort of minimum landscaping standards of about 75% of the coverage of their lots. And so far, we've had compliance of 15 of those lots, and you'll see those in town center as you drive through, that they're starting to do some mulching and some minimal landscaping and improve the aesthetics of the area. We're going to go through each one of those commercial vacant lots till we get through all 56 of those owners. And hopefully by doing so, we'll reduce that number of 250 down to under 200, thus hitting our matrices. So these are the staff recommended improvements that I'm sharing with you. There is one other optional non-recommended improvement. And going back and reading the government code, section 39562.2 allows for additional treatment of lots throughout the calendar year after weeds are abated by the city. So what that would look like is if we go in and remove weeds on a lot in, say, June, we could go back 2 or 3 times before and after the rainy season and treat the lot. So that's a chemical treatment, i.e. Roundup, to ensure that the weeds are not coming back. Once again, staff is not recommending this, but it is an option that's available through the government code. So with that, the recommended action is to receive and file these changes to the program, and we are going to ensure that performance metrics are met in the future program years. I'm open to any questions you guys might have.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Do we have any public comment on this issue?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Very well. Bring it back to council. I'll move that we accept the recommended actions by staff on this item.
I'll second it. This is a receive and file, correct?
Right. But there are some recommendations that were made. So with that having been said, we'll go around for any discussion. Councilman Wyatt.
There's one part on that I was not real clear on. So you're talking about one sort of a more fixed date, right? So every year instead of it floats a bit, right? But there was also year-round abatement. So we would continue to monitor during the course of the year what were those lots, all of them, and follow up on them. Would we set a regular schedule on that? How would sort of making that clear and concise communication and the year-round program sort of dovetail together?
That's a good question. So they are kind of 2 separate things, correct? So year-round, we do enforcement. We do 1,500 cases a year, and there's a normal mechanism for that enforcement. We obviously couldn't set specific dates and times for that type of enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Although when the letters go out to the property owners, those dates would be in there for them to become compliant. However, this abatement program where we actually go on the property and do the abatement, if they don't comply, that's when we would set a clear and consistent date.
Yeah. So all of those communications that may happen essentially well prior to that date on those we're monitoring year round, we will know, right? I mean, it's not like we will.
Absolutely. And I think that normal code enforcement letter could have that in there.
I was going to say, can we add that?
Prior to the weed abatement program, which you will comply by this date, we would like your voluntary compliance.
Right. So we can add that consistent date into that plan. Okay.
Great idea.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Lewis.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much to staff. I really appreciate you addressing this, and especially item 4, the utilization of the existing tools and getting landscape for our municipal code. So I really appreciate that effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Miller.
I have nothing. Thank you, staff, for all the hard work you did on this.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Federico.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Rossler. It seems to me, it's evident to me that you use the tenets of our code enforcement strategy that we adopted, a year and a half ago now, and look back and use that and adopted that to this. So that tells me that that's actually working its way through your office. That's very cool to see. Should we expect to be able to see any report on the metrics at one of our 2 fun-filled weed abatement meetings next year?
Absolutely.
Right on. So you'll kind of work this through the year and implement some of these things now and be able to let us know how many fewer, for example, properties are on the list next year.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks.
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. With that, I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Rossler. And we will now move on to new business. Item 16, Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
Kathy Ward, our city clerk, will present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the City Council. On even-numbered years, staff initiates an agenda item to call a general municipal election. This year's election will be held on November 3rd to fill one City Council seat in District 4 and one seat in District 5. I'm asking the council this evening to approve 3 resolutions. The first one is to hold the general municipal election. The second one is to consolidate the election with the County of Orange. And the third one is basically to adopt the regulation of the candidate statements, which we typically do the same every 2 years. I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, with that, I'll bring it back to council. I'll move the recommended action.
Second.
I think we have a motion and a second. We'll go around for any comments. Councilman Wyatt.
I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewis.
Yeah, I have no comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Miller.
No current comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Federico.
No, sir.
Okay, seeing no comments, I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Not hearing any. That passes unanimously. Okay, that brings us to the end of the numbered items on the agenda, and we come to the staff reports portion of the agenda. Mr. City Manager.
Nothing to report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney.
I have nothing to report this evening.
Okay, thank you. Now we are to the adjournment portion of the agenda. However, we will not be adjourning at this time. We will be going back into closed session. So we will be recessing into closed session. However, before we do that, what I would like to do is say that tonight's meeting is going to be adjourned in the memory of Wayne Schaefer. Wayne made Capistrano Beach his home since the early 1950s. There, Wayne created a lifestyle of the quintessential Southern California sportsman and businessman, developing Dana Point real estate, surfing off his front yard on the famed Pochi Reefs, photographing ski events around the world with his friend Dick Barrymore, including the 1968 Winter Olympics in France, and helping his friend and neighbor Hobie Alter develop the Hobie Cat sailboats at his beachfront home. Wayne gave tutorials to introduce the Hobie Cat to throngs of sailors around the world. His legendary sailing skills, integrity, and warm manner helped propel the Hobie Cat to worldwide fame, while forging personal, lasting friendships spanning multiple generations. Wayne was active in both the Capistrano Beach Road Association and the Capistrano Bay District, holding the title of president of both organizations over his 67 years in residence. Wayne was part of an influential group of surfers, sailors, and ocean lovers, and it has been accurately said by longtime observers of the Schaefer Pochi Beach scene that Wayne was loved by a lot of people, and therefore would like to adjourn tonight's meeting in his memory. So with that, we will recess into closed session.